Hello there, Year 10. Mrs. Murray here. Just doing another little video for you guys about the mock exam that you recently completed. I've done a little video on the 24 mark unseen poetry question. So if you haven't already watched that, I suggest you watch that first. And what I'm going to look at with you now is question 27.2, which is the 8 mark question at the end of the paper, which asks you to compare two unseen poems. Right, let's just get my visualizer up. Let me share my screen. And then I'll talk you through it. Remember what I said in the previous video, that it is really, really important that you treat these as two distinct and completely separate questions, right? Don't just tack a paragraph on the end of your 24 marker. These are different questions and you need to do them separately. I also noticed in the mock exam that some of you were spending as much time on this 8 mark question as you were on the 24 mark question. And I think the reason you were doing that is because there are two poems and you felt you've got more to write about the fact that it was a comparison, but it's absolutely pointless because it's only worth these 8 marks. You really don't want to be spending any more than 10 minutes on this question, and it's actually really quite simple and straightforward to get marks on this question. It's not hard. For just even attempting it, you will get 1 mark. So make sure you leave yourself enough time to get this question done. There's lots of valuable marks to be got at the end there. Could be the difference between grades, couldn't it? So you know how important that is. Right, let's have a look at the question. In both The Sun Has Burst the Sky and I Am Offering This Poem, the speakers describe their feelings about love. Two poems, all right? We've got the second unseen. What are the similarities and or differences between the methods the poets use to present these feelings? Right, a couple of important things about this question. It's similarities and or differences. That means you could write just about similarities, or you could write just about differences, or you could write about similarities and differences. All right, there's no set way of having to do that. It's going to depend entirely on the two poems, isn't it? So it's both, okay? It's up to you, whatever it is you want to say about the poems. And this is the most important word in this question. It's a comparison of the methods. What do we mean by methods? It's the techniques that the poets have used. Some of you did some absolutely beautiful writing all about the feelings that the poets had about love, but that's not what this question is asking you to do. It's not a comparison of feelings, it's a comparison of the methods. So this 8 mark question is all about technique. What techniques have they used? Have they used the same techniques? Have they used similar techniques? They're both writing about love, but how have they done it? Could be similarities, could be differences, okay? You only need to write 2 paragraphs to answer this question, okay? You know, if you've got more time, marvelous, but really you only need a couple of paragraphs to be able to answer this question effectively. Okay, now, so last time I went through and annotated the unseen poem with you, so I'm not going to do that again, and we're going to assume by the time you've got to this second one, this 27.2, you will have already done 27.1, and I would suggest that you do the 24 mark question before you do the 8 mark one. Get your 30 question marker, your 30 marker, and your 24 marker done before you even think about the 8 marker, obviously, because that's where the marks are. So I'm going to assume that you already will have annotated this to do your 24 mark response. And then you've got this little poem, The Sun Has Burst the Sky. Okay, now I haven't got much time to kind of like do a deep analysis of this with lots of annotation. They tend to be different lengths. It depends on the poem. This year we can see that actually it was quite a short poem, wasn't it? The sun has burst the sky. The sun has burst the sky because I love you and the river its banks. The sea laps the great rocks because I love you, and takes no heed of the moon dragging it away, and saying coldly, Constancy is not for you. The blackbird fills the air because I love you, with spring and lawns and shadows falling on lawns. The people walk in the street and laugh. I love you. And far down the river, ships sound their hooters, crazy with joy because I love you. Now you can see I've done a little sort of like brief annotation on there already. I noticed straight away because I love you, because I love you, because I love you, I love you. Repetition. Now, refresh your memory and you'll notice straight away a really easy point of comparison there. They've both used repetition of I love you. And this I love you. They've also both used direct address as well. Both of them are writing directly to the person that they love. So there's some easy points of comparison there, aren't there? I can also see as well that we've got use of natural imagery in this poem. The sun, the river, its banks, the sea, the moon, the blackbird, spring. So we've got a season mentioned there, lawns, lots and lots of natural imagery. Whereas we also have natural imagery in the first poem that we looked at. So we'll see we have more mundane, everyday items as well that this particular poet uses. Things like a warm coat, a thick pair of socks. And if you remember what this particular poet is saying is that his love, and actually this poem, can provide some kind of protection to the person that he loves. That's how powerful his love is, that it's able to do that. So how do we go about actually writing an answer to this? It's a couple of paragraphs, like I said, is all you need. And we don't have much time to be worrying about kind of big ideas or a thesis statement at the start. But we're going to kick off straight away with a both poems straight away by using that word both to get my response started. I know that I'm comparing, and I'm going to say both poems present the speaker's feelings about love, okay, because the question told me to do that, but do so in slightly different ways. Now, I've gone with slightly different ways because I think that the first thing I'm going to talk about is the imagery. You could start it off with in similar ways because of the direct address, because of the repetition, which I'm going to do in my second paragraph. But I'm going to start off with the imagery, and I'm going to call my first poem The Sun Has Burst the Sky. Now, the first time I'm writing the name, I'm going to write out the whole of the name, but next time I would just call it the sun ... Okay, the ... to represent the missing words there, because I don't want to keep repeating that really long title when I'm like really short on time, but I am going to write it out properly the first time. And I'm going to say, notice my inverted commas there as well. The inverted commas represent the fact that it's a title, okay? So we need to use the inverted commas. So The Sun Has Burst the Sky uses imagery of the natural world, such as English, we always need evidence. The sun has burst the sky, which is the first line, isn't it? And another one, the blackbird fills the air. Why? To present ideas about the importance and the naturalness of love. Okay, and I think we can see that by using nature and natural imagery, it's kind of the suggestion is there that love is completely natural as well. Excuse me, I've got a small sausage dog sitting on my lap and he's just done that. Of love. Okay, and then I'm going to do my comparison in I am offering this poem, and I would call it I am offering the next time. The poets also, because there is a similarity there, uses natural imagery, such as, to give my examples, there's my inverted commas to show it's a quote. In the wilderness, life becomes more mature life becomes more mature and the winter comes to cover you, but also uses more mundane, that means a bit boring, everyday, mundane, everyday items. For example, keep it like a warm coat and like a pair of thick socks to show, remember always, I've done my what, I've done my how, my quote, I've got to explain why he's used this imagery now, to show how strong his love is and how his love and how I need to say the person and how the person he loves can use the poem as a form of protection. If you remember, that's what he's saying to the person that he loves, that his love is strong enough, and the poet can use the poem to protect them. Right, so an examiner looking at that, you can see it's all about technique, isn't it? Obviously, yes, we've got to talk a little bit about feeling, and that's in our why, isn't it? But it's all about technique, and it's all about the natural imagery, and how this one uses natural imagery, as does the second poem, but not just uses natural imagery. That poet also uses more mundane everyday language as well. So what are the things where that's one paragraph. I would do one more paragraph like that, and yeah, and then I'm 8 marks basically is what I would have there. What other things are there in the two poems that you can compare? Well, there was the direct address, which we could talk about in our next paragraph. So both of the poets are addressing their poems directly to the person that they love. We'd also got both of them the use of repetition, and it was actually the same phrase, wasn't it? The I love you that they were both repeating. And clearly that repetition is showing how incredibly important their message was and how that was the most important message of the poem. I love you. We've got the imagery of the natural world, which I've talked about. There's a possible contrast between I am offering this poem, which is kind of a bit more tentative. It's not as self-assured. Is a more tentative offer. Tentative is perhaps when you're not quite sure, whereas the sun has burst the sky is absolutely jubilant in its tone, isn't it? That kind of means very celebratory and possibly the more kind of like confident tone, the emphatic, the sun has burst the sky. It's very positive, isn't it? And you would have more than enough there to get your second paragraph done. And that would get you a very simple kind of like quite straightforward 8 marks for that particular question. 6, 7, 8 marks. Certainly going to put you in the right place, isn't it? So what are the key things that I've kind of said to you there? Well, firstly, please treat them as 2 separate answers and make them clear separate answers in your response. Otherwise, you make things very difficult for your examiner. The 27.2 is not an extension of 27.1. They're 2 distinct and separate questions. What else? Right, the most important thing is that question, which tells you to compare methods. All right, guys, not ideas. Although, you see, the 2 poems will always be linked by theme, but that's not what we're comparing. We're comparing methods. Okay, right. I will be doing some other videos for you, so please look out for them. And wish you all the best of luck with your revision, and I'll be doing some more videos soon. Take care. Hello.